graduate does impact your bottom line. As Caroline knows, those funders want to know what the success rate is. And if you're not retaining them, that is going to impact your bottom line, and especially in terms of grants. Now, maybe not so much in terms of individual donors, because they don't usually jump into the weeds at that level, but grantors will definitely want that data and those statistics. And I would say, just to circle back to Bob's question, I would say that your retention is very closely tied to your recruiting. If you can identify those characteristics that either when a kid comes in, you can look at them and go, based on this, and this, I am pretty sure they're not going to, get all the way through 8th grade. Or you look at them and you go, because of this, and this, I know that kid's going to stay here until 8th grade and do really well. So if you've got a spot for 25 kids and you've got 30 applicants, maybe part of your recruiting is saying, here's what we're looking for. And if you don't have these, we're going to prioritize those spots to those kids that we think are going to be most successful. Because if you're turning kids away and then you have other kids leaving so that your 8th grade isn't full, then what you've done is you've taken away that opportunity for that kid who would have been there through 8th grade. So, I would say maybe that's all. It's all connected.
This strikes me as being the subject of a brainstorming session that we should have. But one of the things that comes to my mind is if it's one of those know thyself. We are in a market that by nature, there's a lot of movement for families. As Roger pointed out, they're moving in the area or they're moving back to Mexico. Well, that's a reality that we're not going to be able to change.
No.
So maybe we should put our heads on yes, you want them to have the 3-year San Miguel experience, but reality says you can fill some seats in the 7th grade, and maybe we set up a program where, yes, you can be accepted and come in August, but you're going to have to come here in the summer, and we're going to warp speed you up to the San Miguel way of life and fill in any academic holes. And have a same program maybe in the 8th grade, believe it or not, for 1 year, but at least the kids wouldn't just go from August to Christmas trying to understand San Miguel. Maybe they'd have a little bit of a head start on that. So I mean, we need to think it out if that's where our marketplace is.
Hey, Roger, is there a placement test for these kids that want to come to San Miguel?
Not a specific placement test. We use the testing where the schools where they were at before, and we look at those. The achievement tests that you take whenever you're in the schools. But there's not a set down placement test like a lot of schools. We look at grades, things like that.
What you said about sort of, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but sort of screening for the kids that are going to be most successful.
Yes. I mean, we did an interview and those things. Yeah.
I get that. And it makes sense. But also the mission in the beginning was those kids who need the most are our target market.
Right.
And so they may not be the ones that look most successful. And we need to figure out how we're going to balance that or how we're going to frame it. But that's a change in perspective for us. And in some ways regarding the mission.
Okay. No, I think that's a great observation.
Well, I think we need to redefine our.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think we need to redefine what our goals are, because if we're just saying, graduations or, however we're defining success, if taking a student that's 2 or 3 grades behind and, getting them to a certain level may mean more for our success than having the kid that comes 6th through 8th and quote unquote succeeds by graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Caroline.
Yes.
Has our enrollment, how would you describe it sequentially over the last 4 years? Has it declined, held flat, increased? I mean, what are the facts?
I think that, well, we had 1 year where our numbers were definitely affected. That was the year TPS increased Kendall Whittier from a K through 5 to K through 6. And kids didn't want to jump ship that year. You know, they wanted to finish their elementary school year or in elementary experience at Kendall Whittier. So that 6th grade year, which that was, Roger, help me out, that was like 3 years ago.
Let's see, it would have been the year before I came, so 4 years ago.
So that affected our numbers that year. Our numbers were down, but then when they only did that for 1 year and then they dropped that model. So then that's where the increase came back, where we were getting people coming out of 5th grade wanting to come into San Miguel for 6th. In my observation, it appears as though we've lost more in the last, I'd say, 3 years in the 7th and 8th grade for all the reasons that were just mentioned. So we start strong in 6th grade, and then it starts declining in 7th and 8th. So it is down from where it was when I started. We always in our grants put that we had 74 kids, 73 kids. And now we're down to, you know, we get 66 or 67. So there's a decline, and it has not gone unnoticed by, especially people who are very familiar, like the Hilly Foundation, a local foundation. I have been asked, you know, to what do you owe the decrease? And all the reasons Roger just gave: people moving, behavioral issues, just not a good fit, academics, family situations. And so, but yes, I would say it has gone down from where I started, but part of that decrease is the class, I think it's the 8th grade class, was affected by that 1 year bump at Kendall Whittier, where it was a smaller class to begin with. And that was the year before Roger came. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Was there anything in the SWOT analysis or the findings? What was something that surprised you? This is a question for everybody. All right, well, so no surprises.
I think we're all digging through.
I know, I'm like, you had homework. You had homework. No recess, guys. Canceling it. I'm teasing. So am I finding a consensus that says when you looked at these findings, it was kind of what you expected? Is that a fair thing to say?
Hey, Dana, I'm still back up at the top, you know, where you've done the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yes, sir.
Were those just the top ones that you pulled?
Those were the ones, yeah. I would say those are the ones that there was a consistent pattern. It doesn't mean that there aren't others that could be considered a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat, but those were the ones that emerged in terms of feedback. There was just a consistent pattern in terms of the feedback.
Okay. My only observations would be, I'm surprised on the weaknesses part. Maybe this is just personal, but I have really no way of benchmarking how well we're doing with our kids while they're in the program. Nothing.
Great.
And I'm really surprised that's not a major weakness for all of us. Unless I'm missing it, I don't know if we're doing good or not. It's a great mission, but are we doing well? And on the threat side of it, I'm just surprised too. There's a lot more competition there was when we started.
Yes.
And I don't know a lot about it. Maybe some other board members do, but I don't. And we have to compete with a lot more schools than we used to give these kids a great education. Those are two weaknesses personally that I have. And then another very real threat is our cost per student, especially when our costs are going up where they are and we're declining in enrollment. It's a threat. It really is. That's what I'll add to. Surprised they weren't maybe towards the top here.
Okay.
I want to address a couple things. The other educational opportunities in Tulsa, that's an opportunity for us to be a learning board. Let's find out what those are. Let's go out and get that information. Tap who we need to tell. I know there's Honor Academy and other academies that have opened in the last 5-6 years, and we need to find that out. So we're not going to be able to Google it. We need to ask around and figure out what are the other opportunities. As far as not knowing what kind of education we produce, that has been on our radar screen for a while. We have not really gotten results yet because this is such a funky year in terms of classroom education. And I don't know if the new measurement that took the place of Terra Nova is even capable of measuring that kind of stuff during, distance learning, hybrid learning, multiple weeks. I don't know how that works. But one of the things that I really think we need to do, and Kurt touched on it, and so did Kathleen when they came to speak to us, is that we're not trying to micromanage the teachers at all, but we need some kind of measurement that tells us how well the kids are doing and what quality of education we put out there. And so that needs to be a goal. It's been hard to get our arms around it this year because it has been a crazy year, but that needs to continue to be a goal going forward.
Yeah, this year in particular, it is, because we haven't been able really to sit down and do it. We should be able, when we get back going here the next month or two, we were able to buy some software where we could take the test ourselves and without having to do it in a certain window like Terra Nova and California testing and all that. We have handed out to the board last year, the year before, there are testing on the results of those Terra Novas. And we broke down the percentages and all that. And I'm not sure if we did last year. Now that I say that, because we weren't here the last 3 months, right? Yeah. But the year before that, I know we actually sent that out. So we can see the improvement of each individual student, each class and things like that. But, we could certainly be a lot more, we could produce a lot more things for the board if you want. We could certainly put those things out there. We as a staff and in our academic, curriculum and all of those things, we look at what's the negative, what's the positive, how can we improve this, how can we improve that. But we're happy to share with you, those things to let you know. And I will say, if you look at the data, they do improve. This thrown out there, will they get 2 or 3 years caught up and all that? Majority do. Not all of them. Some of them are like me, kind of slow, but they do improve. They really do. And then I'll be honest with you, I didn't really see any surprises on this because I'm here every day. But I guess one thing that I'm a little, that I would, like for us to maybe see if we can come up with some better ideas is following our students after they leave here. And we do have a new, Mr. Martinez is